The last PSVR title Charm Games brought us was Form, a somewhat abstract sci-fi puzzle game that didn't really deliver much on the puzzles or the story. It was short and a little overpriced at $15, but somehow, despite it all, still delivered an interesting, relaxing experience from an AV standpoint. So when Charm Games announced their newest title, Twilight Path, which released today on PlayStation VR, it looked like a great opportunity for the team to show off their storytelling skills and possibly some better implemented puzzles. And during the course of the opening scene, all of this seemed like a possibility. The developers cite inspiration from the Never-Ending Story and Spirited Away, two of my favorites, and when the game starts off grounded in reality outside a mysterious curio shop, it seems like everything was heading in the right direction. Sure, this click turning and some awkward form of teleportation, but the atmosphere more than made up for it. Sadly though, everything that came after was pretty much a huge disappointment. When you reach the spirit realm, you're greeted by a couple of travelers. Bark, that does most of the talking and steers the ferry, and Singe, an adorable fire sprite that keeps the engines running. The back and forth dialogue here could have been so charming, but nothing that was said over the course of the next 75 minutes was even remotely interesting, making both of these characters, who should have been the star of the show, forgettable at best.
In fact, some of the statues you see are actually the original Elder Spirits, frozen in contemplation.
Whoa, I get fidgety.
And for anyone who's played Form, a lot of the puzzles here are gonna feel really familiar. Some of them are practically identical, especially the put the square peg in the square hole ones. But even the bracelet that highlights puzzle pieces is from Form 2. It lets you see things that would otherwise be hidden from sight, but far too often, simply remembering to use it is the puzzle. For example, this chest of drawers requires that certain drawers are pulled out while other ones remain shut. There are no hints or clues to help you determine the answer on your own. Instead, you just use the bracelet to reveal the answer. And while admittedly this is a very early puzzle, it's hugely indicative of things to come. The difficulty never ramps up, and even when I was briefly confused about what to do next, the answers almost always presented themselves. There's a strange issue here with the controls too. Move controllers have 5 face buttons, but instead of utilizing any of them, Twilight Path uses the trigger for everything. For reaching out and grabbing tangible items, this obviously makes sense, but when you want to interact with anything outside your grasp or even teleport to a new area, you need to hold both triggers and release them to conjure up a spell that gives you on-screen reticles. But even the reticles don't move like they should. It's not quite like pointing and not quite like casting a spell with your hand. It's something in between, and really uncomfortable to use. I had high hopes for Twilight Path. Having played Form and thinking it was a fun VR experience, I was really hoping that Charm Games would take that formula and evolve it into a bigger, more fulfilling game. But in the end, Twilight Path feels like a reskinned version of Form, but now with a forgettable story and uninspired graphics.
Ooh, I love this song. Ooh, drum solo.